In this class we'll look at the special code that we use to describe a web page. But before we consider web pages, we have to ask ourselves how any text document is stored in a computer. We know that at the most fundamental level, all information in the computer is stored in bits that hold ones or zeros. But how do ones and zeros become letters like F or Q? Well, the answer is with a lookup table. If we list all of the letters, digits and other symbols that we might want in our document, we can assign each one of them a unique sequence of bits to identify it. Uppercase and lowercase letters are different, and there's 26 each of those. We'd need characters for the digits, 10 of those. If we allowed just a space and a full stop for punctuation, then we'd have a total of 64 different characters. So here each character uses 6 bits. To code some text, the computer system would look up the bit sequence for each character. This is the bit sequence for D, O, G. To go from bits to characters, the computer would use the table to look up what the bits mean. This bit sequence spells out C, A, T. Of course, when presented with a sequence of bits, you have to have the table to make sense of it. This is a real problem for archivists and historians working with old computer files. A bunch of bits by itself is meaningless. Fortunately, most modern computers use some variation of the ASCII system. The American Standard Code for Information Interchange, or ASCII, was agreed between computer manufacturers decades ago, and it defines a standard table. Here we have 8 bits per character. This is the bit sequence for C, A, R. Web pages are ASCII files, and that makes them very simple, and it allows computer systems to exchange them easily. To make a web page, you must use a text editor capable of saving files as raw ASCII. This isn't easily done with sophisticated word processors like Microsoft Word. But most operating systems provide a simple text editor. On Windows machines, Notepad works well. ASCII just codes characters. It says nothing about the font, the colour of the characters or their size. For that we need a markup language. In this case, Hypertext Markup Language, or HTML. HTML is a simple language used to describe web pages. Let's take a look at this simple HTML document. Those brackets are actually less than and greater than signs, but we use them like brackets to identify tags. Tags are special sequences of characters that don't actually appear in the final page. They're information about the page. Note that the tags are in lowercase letters. That's very important. This first tag says that this is the beginning of a HTML document. Look at the last tag and notice the slash. This tag marks the end of the HTML document. In HTML, most tags occur in begin-end pairs. So we have begin header and end header. The header typically contains information about the document. At a minimum, it should contain a title. So we have begin title and end title. The text between the begin title and end title tags will appear in the title bar of whatever browser we use to view the page. The body of the HTML document is the part that contains the content of the page. All of the content must go here between the begin body and end body tags. The content of this page is fairly simple. It just says, "Hello world, how are you?" After the hello world, we have a BR tag. Note the slash there at the end. The BR tag is one of the few tags that doesn't occur in begin-end pairs. BR is like a carriage return on a typewriter in that it goes on to a new line. Before U, we have a bold tag. This turns bold on so that U appears on the page in bold. /B turns bold off. We could save this page as mypage1.html. HTML files typically have an extension of .htm or .html. To see what it looks like, we need to open it up in a browser. When working on a page, it's often handy to keep both the HTML file and the browser open. The effects of any changes to the HTML file can then be quickly seen in the browser. Here are some other tags. Text can be in italics and even underlined. So here R is underlined and U is underlined and bold. Notice how the underline and bold tags are nested. It's very important that tags be nested correctly. An important feature of web pages is that they can include links to other pages. A link has two main parts: the text that appears on the web page and then the location of the second page. Links use an anchor tag. A link to the CIT website would look like this. The text inside the tag appears on the page, usually underlined and in a different colour. The address of the second page is more correctly known as the Universal Resource Locator, or URL, and that's between the quotes. If a page is linking to another page in the same location, then there's no need for the full URL. If you just give the file name, the browser will look for it in its current location. So here we have just a file name for the URL. This is very useful because it means you can build a website on your computer locally without having to know where its final location on the web will be. You can decide that at a later stage. So with just this much HTML now, you could build a simple website in a few steps. Step 1. Open up an ASCII text editor and type the HTML. Step 2. Save it in a folder on your computer. Step 3. Open the HTML file in a browser. You can double click and sometimes that'll work, or you can drag and drop. Step 4. If you change the text file, just save it and refresh the browser to see the effects of the changes. And then finally, step 5. To make a second page, open a new file in the text editor, type the HTML and save it with a different file name. Then you'll have two pages. See if you can get them to link to each other. So now you know enough to build a simple website from scratch. While you're at it, see if you can figure out what code, TT and HR do. HR is another of those rare tags that doesn't occur in begin-end pairs.